Back here on CBS Sports HQ, we know that chaos is inevitable in college football, and we saw that in Week 10. A handful of CFP hopefuls going down in Week 10. We had Vandy going down at the hands of Texas, Miami with a crippling ACC loss to SMU, Georgia Tech losing to NC State, all the things. We got a new set of AP rankings, and now we're going to get the first set of CFP rankings dropping tonight. You're looking at the schedule for the college football playoff, the first round kicking off December 19th, and we fast forward all the way to January 19th, where we have the national championship. But hey, in the meantime, let's welcome in Brad Crawford, and we're talking about the very first CFP rankings that are dropping tonight. Brad, you mentioned this is like Christmas morning for you, so a whole lot of excitement and anticipation. But first of all, Brad, walk us through the committee criteria, strength of schedule. What all goes into this?
Yeah, you mentioned strength of schedule. That's huge. Quality wins, overall record, all those things matter. There's also a new record strength metric is what they're calling it for 2025. We did not see that last year. And what that is essentially a supersized look at strength of schedule. It's supposed to reward teams for beating quality opponents, whether that's home, maybe a couple more percentage points if you beat a good team on the road. And it's supposed to lessen the effect of beating or losing to a ranked team at home or on the road. So I think we're going to see, like, despite Indiana being 9-0, having the most wins in college football right now, that doesn't necessarily put the Hoosiers at number one. Who you beat matters, and obviously quality wins trumps all. Head-to-head also matters.
All right, let's continue that conversation with who is going to be number one, because Ohio State, they were number one in the latest AP Top 25, getting 54 of a possible 66 votes. Indiana at number two. But it seems like it's this constant conversation in college football with who is the best team out there, who is number one. Brad, who do you think should be number one in the first CFP rankings?
I don't think it'll be a unanimous choice, but Ohio State is my projection for tonight. Buckeyes right now number one in game control, 3 wins this season over teams that I expect to be in the committee's top 25, Texas, Washington, and Illinois. Indiana does have the nation's best singular win, in my opinion, going to Alston Stadium, ending Oregon's long winning streak at home. That was impressive. But the Buckeyes have been the most dominant team, especially on defense. Now, that being said, it's certainly arguable if you're a Hoosiers fan, maybe wanting to see Indiana at number one. And I'll say this too. If the committee ranks 2-loss Iowa somewhere in that 23-24 range, then that's going to put Indiana with the same number of quality wins as Ohio State. And that would be a scenario, Jacqueline, in which you see the Hoosiers being ranked number one.
Okay, yeah, it's a constant conversation. It's only going to continue on as the college football season does. I mentioned a lot of chaos happened in Week 10, and part of that was in the ACC with Miami losing to SMU in overtime, an SMU team that just lost to Wake Forest the week before. So ultimately, Brad, what do you think the committee should do with Miami?
Miami's one of the tougher teams to project, I think, in this first ranking. We're going to see, Jacqueline, what the committee thinks of early season wins versus what Miami has looked like these last 3 weeks. Obviously, Miami 2 losses right now. They've come in the last month. That loss to Louisville, a bit of a surprise. And then the setback at SMU might be the game that cost the Hurricanes a spot in this playoff. I do think Miami is going to be inside that top 12, whether Miami's at number 11 tonight, maybe number 12 as the first team out. I just think those 3 quality wins in September are going to come back big, especially when you consider who they beat early. That win over Notre Dame is still a giant win for the Canes.
Yeah, so we mentioned it, UM losing to SMU, and then also Louisville a little bit earlier, Georgia Tech going down to NC State. So ultimately, what do you think the committee is going to do? How are they going to handle the ACC just as a whole?
Yeah, that was not a good look for the Yellow Jackets, giving up 600 yards on the road to a 4-4 NC State team that was playing without 2 of its best offensive weapons. So that's not a good look. I don't think Georgia Tech is going to be in the top 12 tonight because of strength of schedule, one of the lowest in the country for these possible playoff contenders. I think, to answer your question, the ACC is going to be a 1-bid league in the bracket. And we're not going to know that until 4 or 5 weeks from now, but I think Miami is likely going to be outside the picture because of these 2 regular season losses. And it's going to come down to who can win the ACC. Duke at 5-3 overall right now still controls its own destiny. Virginia, also a 1-loss ACC team, and, of course, Haynes King and Georgia Tech. Whoever wins in Charlotte during Conference Championship weekend, that's going to be who represents the ACC in this 12-team scenario.
Okay, and now we talk about the independents and Notre Dame and how to handle that situation. It's always interesting here when we're talking about conferences and then you throw Notre Dame into the mix. So do you think Notre Dame should be in the first CFP projection, Brad?
I think the Irish will be inside the top 15 and not necessarily the top 12. I've got them at number 12 as the first team out. I think they've done enough these last few weeks, 6 straight wins since those losses to Miami and A&M. And like I mentioned earlier, based on that new record strength metric, Notre Dame's supposed to not be docked as much because they lost those games at Miami, lost to A&M. A&M right now is the SEC's lone remaining unbeaten team. And like we saw last season, Jacqueline, Notre Dame lost early before winning 10 or 11 straight games to make the playoff. The good news for Notre Dame is when we expanded to this 12-team bracket a year ago, Notre Dame was always going to be benefiting from this because if you get to 10 wins in your Notre Dame, you're going to have enough quality victories to get there. And I think beating USC a couple weeks ago is going to be the game that the committee looks back at and says, okay, at 10-2 overall, as long as they're not a 10-win SEC team with better wins overall, Notre Dame's going to likely be the last team in.
Yeah, sometimes it works to your favor if you're not in a conference. It's just eating each other up, right, like the SEC. Let's go to the Big 12. It's a race at the top with BYU and Texas Tech. So what are the chances that we see 2 Big 12 teams in this first CFP projection?
I think we could. I think Texas Tech is going to be a few spots lower than BYU, obviously, because the Cougars are unbeaten right now. We saw Cincinnati and Houston get tripped up. Utah's had some good wins recently. But this might be a scenario just like the ACC where there's a one bid lead. Now, I do think the Big 12 moving forward has a better shot at getting 2 teams in than the ACC does because you've got 2 top 10 teams right now with BYU and Texas Tech. But for that scenario to unfold, I think Texas Tech has to win this weekend against BYU in that top 10 matchup. And then BYU may have to win the rematch in a couple weeks in the Big 12 championship game in order for that 2-team scenario to take place.
Yeah, that matchup this Saturday at noon Eastern. And as you mentioned, Brad, a whole lot on the line with those 2 teams. Okay, Brad, we have finally reached this point in the segment where we're going to put you on the spot. We want you to give us your CFP projections, what you think it could look like a little bit later.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to be the top team tonight. Like I said, it would not surprise me if Indiana's in that top spot. But the biggest shocker on Tuesday night's first ranking is going to be Alabama will be placed ahead of unbeaten Texas A&M. If the committee really does look at this new schedule metric and determine that Alabama's 4 wins right now over ranked teams is better than what A&M's done with 2, then I think Bama, despite having a loss to FSU in that opener, should be ranked higher. So I've got Alabama in the number 2 spot, Texas A&M at 4, Georgia 5, and Ole Miss 6. And then rounding out the top 12 is BYU, Oregon, Texas Tech, Texas, Miami, and then Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame at number 12 tonight would mean that the Irish, if the season ended today, would be the first team out because the G5 representative, who us at CBS project will be Memphis, would get that 12 seed. So a lot to look forward to Tuesday night as the committee releases its first rankings.
And Brad, I know you already talked about Bama and why you would have them higher than A&M, but speak to the Hoosier fans because they're obviously very passionate. They've been riding a high for the past season and a half. So tell the Hoosier fans why Bama is over Indiana in this projection.
I think right now Alabama, based on its 4 top 25 wins, trumps Indiana in this scenario. Now, has Indiana looked more dominant Saturday to Saturday? Of course, because the schedule has been somewhat easier. I was most impressed, besides that win at Oregon for the Indiana, beating Illinois by 53 points. Illinois is a team, despite having 3 losses, I think the Fighting Illini might sneak into the top 25, so it gives a school like Ohio State and Indiana another top 25 win. We see every year, Jacqueline, the committee sort of places some random teams there in that 24-25 range to beef up some of these elites at the top of the ranking schedules, and we could see that unfold this evening.
So maybe there's more meaning behind those 24 and 25 spots than meets the eye. Brad, we appreciate it. As the first CFP projections are going to drop tonight. You see it here, the rest of the CFP schedule. The first round kicking off December 19th, the quarters December 31st. Then we have the semifinals January 8th and the 9th. And then we fast forward to January 19th. It can't be here soon enough for the Natty.